Okay, here are the rules of the game. So that we can hear from every group, in this first round, we are just reading out what we have written. Just reading out what we have written. And then you're going to allow me, and I'll be very grateful, to keep what you have written so that it becomes part of the record of this conference. Time permitting, we'll see whether there's an opportunity for further interchange. But in this first round, each group is invited to read out what they've written. And we decided to be very mystical with this. We're going to start with group 7. You all heard today 7's a mystical number. For no particular reason, we're starting with group 7.
First of all, group 7, everybody from group 7 raise your hands so you know who I'm representing. So I had the wonderful opportunity to sit with some tremendously special human beings. And these are some of the thoughts that we shared in terms of the basis for forgiveness and things that might guide us. In no particular order, I think. One is the search for commonalities. Learning from the Women Wage Peace experience, we heard of the commonality of women coming together as wanting to be part of negotiations in this region, all wanting to end war, all wanting an agreement. And the question about how forgiveness fit into that story was a very interesting question, whether it actually is a prerequisite or not. The other ideas came to include no blaming, no shaming, looking towards the future, separating the person from the act. Of course, these are many ideas that we were resonating as they came from the scholars that we heard from today. The difference between a job or a personal relationship, again, the separation of the person from the act, the need for unconditional support and compassion, the willingness to hear the narrative of the other. We had quite a lively conversation on being with the other and knowing who the other is and letting that person be heard. The need to forgive, but not the need to forget, and the need not to forget, actually not to forget. And the need to dispel misconceptions. And one of the final thoughts at the end was one that spoke about the way we categorize people and to learn about the Arabic world mentality, to change future generations and to understand what keeps us in where we are today in order to make changes for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. You can see how some group extended a sentence. Wow. I'd like now to invite group 1, which was Miri's group. Who's going to read on behalf of your group?
Can I?
No, you're reading whatever's written on your sheet, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I think to go after the Okay. So I put this here. So what we spoke about, all the person of the group, how to lead a forgiven life, it's to be reflective. It means always making introspection and asking yourself, what is my fault? What I deserve to meet this person? What should I change? And not only seeing the others and the bad that they're doing, but asking yourself what God sent you this person and try to overcome it, and also having compassion. More you're able to have compassion on others, more you're able to forgive. And the way to have compassion is to get closer to God and to try to build a relationship with God, and then He put inside you compassion, and you can easily forgive faster and see also the trouble of others and not only your trouble. And and also I see what Sherry wrote, to see the divine into the others. If you see the other person in front of you, not only like, why he's a very bad person, he makes something very bad, but see that you have also a divine soul, you have also something divine, and I can connect to this, and I try to see the best in others. You're able more to forgive and to connect to the best into others and inside and into you also. I hope I make it like quick and
thank you.
Okay.
Don't take that away. I'm going to ask for that. Thank you so much, Sharon. Your group. Thank you. See how some people do one sentence? Can you see this? Excellent.
Wow, I'm short. Okay. Hi.
You have to eat the microphone, that's the rule.
Okay. Our group was like,
I don't think you're speaking, it's
Okay.
right up to it.
okay, our group was very, we were very dedicated and very organized in our thoughts. And honestly, we did not follow the rules as well. Thank you. And one of the rules we did not follow, actually, we're going to start with the first sentence, which is, justice is not needed for forgiveness. And since we are group 2, so we said 2 is good. And the second one, a forgiving community is one of individuals who learn from an early age to accept and respect themselves and others and communicate without judgment.
What a beautiful sentence. Thank you.
We work
so
very
much.
hard.
Very diligent. Thank you. Leave it here, please. Thank you so much. Okay, Sheila, your group. Who's speaking from your group? Thank you. Thank you.
Ours was a sentence.
Yay.
And our sentence was accept emotions to progress to forgiveness.
Would you read that again slowly?
So accept emotions to progress to forgiveness. And we meant more about anger and allowing a positive platform for anger to create a dialogue of interfaith communications.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jennifer, your group. Thank you.
I think that our group was the most diverse of all the groups. South African, North Ireland, American Republicans versus Democrats, Arabs, Jews, Christians, Muslims, everything under the sun. So we had some good conversations back and forth, leaving us perhaps with more questions than answers. But our sentence, we at least came to a commitment together. We said we are committed we are committed to open our minds and our hearts to the concept of forgiveness. That was as far as the resolution could take us.
No, that's fabulous. Can you leave it for me or write it?
I'll write it down.
Thank you so much. That's the idea of making a commitment is a very powerful one indeed. Baruch, your group, please. Thank you.
So we had a very good discussion, and we realized that we're all very different. But if we can boil down our discussion to one sentence, and it was really a great sharing of really deep subjects, and I was really impressed at our group and their willingness to share. But the one sentence we could boil it down to is our humanity is something that we share in common. Oh. And so all of us, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but even though we come from many different situations, many different backgrounds, and we're all different people, we do share in this oneness of our humanity, and that's something we can unite over.
Thank you so much, Michael. Leave it here for me, please. Thank you. Thank you. The representative of Russ's group. Thank you.
Hi,
Whoops, I'm sorry, it's not very good.
I'm the taller kind.
Well done.
Our sentence evolved into a question.
Okay, that's excellent.
So we said, in growing, forgiving communities, we discovered that our inspiration is our faith, our examples, our scriptures, and it's from grassroots up that our mothers or our leaders inspire us to that place. But our question is, What does Islam teach on person-to-person forgiveness? We have heard how God forgives from some of the surahs being read, and that is a question for us. We'd like to hear more.
Thank you. I certainly hope we have the opportunity more while we're here. If not, I'll invite you to come to the Elijah Summer School where we can explore that further. A little bit of a plug there, but thank you. The next group is Claire. Did you have a group, Claire? Where's Claire? No? What about Hermana? Was there a group from Hermana? Oh, that was the group. So you combined. What about Therese? Therese. There was Russ and Mary. No group. Is there a group I've left out? So these were the groups that met. I did leave out a group. Please come forward. Who was your moderator so I can thank them? Roberta. Roberta. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Roberta's group. Sorry, Roberta.
Unlike the other groups, we didn't quite make it to an agreed statement, but here are some of our ideas that we were throwing out. We talked first about having courage to address what it is we believe are the injustices which we've experienced, and finding then the opportunities in those experiences for dialogue. We talked as well about through death having faith to let go of bandages which are binding us to some sort of injustice or hurt. We spoke about having and finding our own identity, of course, before God, and then working from that outwards. We talked about the importance of looking for forgiveness as well, taking opportunities to find it, and also just to finish off, the importance of not choosing ourselves to not live in the past and not to be defined and bound by the unforgiving and the hurt.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you. We have about 5 minutes, and I'd like to do something with you that I have found to be a test of ourselves in a way. Did you hear from somebody else a story of their personal forgiveness in your introductions when you were asked to share an experience where you have forgiven or been forgiven? Did you hear from someone else in your circle a story that you feel the rest of us really ought to hear? Did you hear a story from someone else in your circle? A story that you feel the rest of us really ought to hear? Sharon, who did you hear from? From Nicholas. Sharon and Nicholas, would you both come here, please? I don't know who Nicholas is. Where's Nicholas? Sharon and Nicholas, please come. Sharon, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to tell us what you heard. And Nicholas, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to either enhance or just acknowledge what Sharon heard from your story.
I have to say I would have preferred if Nicholas just told the story, but this is what I heard. During the time of the First Intifada, Nicholas was living in Jerusalem with his wife, and his wife came home and she had stones thrown at her car by young boys. And she came in and told Nicholas about this, and he said that he wants to go out and speak to them. And she said, no, don't go out because it could cause problems. And he said, no, I want to go and speak to them. So he goes out and he said, he finds these kids and he says, did you throw stones at this car? And they quite enthusiastically and happily said, yes, we did. And he said, but can you imagine if there was a child in that car and that was, would you want to throw stones at a car that has a child in it? And they said, no, we wouldn't. And then he said, can you imagine if there was an older person in there, your grandfather, a person of your grandfather's age, would you want to throw stones at the car if he was in there? And they said, no, we wouldn't. So he said, well, why did you throw the stones? They said, well, we haven't got much to do, you know, we're bored, and so we threw the stones. So he said, well, what would you like to do? And so they said, well, you know, we like to play football, but we haven't got a ball. So he took out 100 shekel, and he gave them 100 shekel and said, go and buy yourself a ball, and then come back to my house here, and we'll play ball together. And they couldn't believe their ears. And they went out and bought a ball, and they brought it back, and they got a good deal for it, so they obviously pocketed the rest of the money. And they came and played football with him in his garden or wherever, in the courtyard. And that small game developed into a football club where Jews and Muslims and others come together and play, and they're still playing regularly, and they go and play in various places, and there are 2 rules. One is discipline, I remember, which they're not very good at, and the other one is respect, and that they are good at. Excellent. And they all respect each other.
Wow. What a story. Is that
Yes. Actually, I am a dental surgeon by profession, but a soccer coach by passion. And yes, and soccer is a way, I mean sports in general, and I am of Greek descent, so athletics runs in our blood. Yes. The Maccabia is, of course. Yes, but it's beautiful, yes, and respect is now a basic element of our function. Discipline, we are struggling.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What a powerful story. We have time for one more. If you heard in your group a story that you feel the rest of us would benefit from hearing, was there a story you heard from someone else in your group? Michael, are you indicating? No?
I'll shake his hand. Somebody in our group talked about mother-in-law, which I think is a very instructive story.
Who was the person in Malcolm's group who spoke about their mother-in-law? No? We're not going to share that one. For tomorrow, how many of you are returning here tomorrow? Will we see you here tomorrow? That is fantastic. I'm going to ask help from all of you. For tomorrow, we're going to have about 100 people or more who were not here today. They don't know the small group process, but just again, let me have from affirmation, it's very important, the small groups, to you. In that case, I'm going to ask that you help tomorrow. I'm going to ask that you help in the circles. We're going to introduce new people and have a different set of questions to answer. But I'm also going to ask that you encourage everybody to listen closely to each other's stories, because at the end of the day, we once again want to share what you've heard from the other. And if you know that you're sharing what you've heard from the other, it might help encourage more attentive and attentive listening. And unless we learn to listen to one another, we're never really truly going to be forgiving personalities. It didn't come up this morning. It will come up tomorrow, I'm sure. The role of listening in forgiving, and it's active listening, which is actually hearing. I want to thank all of you for allowing others to be heard today, for sharing your story and therefore allowing yourself to be heard today, for being such great listeners, great participants, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you to Robert Enright. Where's Robert here? Thank you to Robert for bringing us together. Thank you to Jacqueline and the team of volunteers for all the work you've done. Thank you for Notre Dame, to the hospitality. And thank you to Adamo and our other guests whom we will see again tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.